Hey guys, in this tutorial, we're going to talk a little bit about how to search census records on Ancestry.com. Census records are really the easiest records to access and is where most people start their family history search. So I thought it would be a great way to kick off this channel by just doing a very quick overview of how to find census records on Ancestry.com and some basic search tips. So once you log into Ancestry.com, you will have a homepage that looks similar to this. Of course, the information on your homepage will be different based on your family search. But on the right-hand side, the census records collection is typically always highlighted, so you can access the census years here. You can also access them if you click on search and choose census and voter list. So if they're not on your quick bar on the right, you can always access them from the search menu at the top. So we're going to access it in that way today. And so you click search and then census and voter list. Now, what's important to know, if you go to the census records through this method, you're going to have a search screen pop up immediately. But this is going to search every census record that Ancestry has for every year. And you probably don't want to do that because it's just going to give you way too much information. It's going to include international search records. It's going to include search records all the way back to 1700s if they're available. And you may eventually get there, but when you get started, you want to be a little bit more specific. So from this page, I'm going to focus on the U.S. Federal Census Collection, but you can search the U.S. Federal Census Collection, the U.K. Census Collection, the Canadian Census Collection, and some additional census collections if you look at it by the year gap. So the 1700s, the 1800s, or 1900s. So it just depends on how you want to access the information. So we're going to go directly to the U.S. Federal Census Collection, and it's going to show you all of the available collections for the U.S. Federal Census at the bottom. So again, if you search on this first page, it's going to search all of those years, and you probably don't want to start there. So I always suggest that you start with the latest available data, which for the US is 1950. So I would find the 1950 United States Federal Census, and you see the title has changed at the top. And so now when I search, I'm only searching in the 1950 United States Federal Census. And then once I find whoever I'm looking for in 1950, I'll go back and I'll search for them in 1940 or their family members in 1940, then 1930, and I just work my way back. So that is how you access the census records. So I'm just going to type in a very general name just to kind of show you how you can do a search. One tip about searching for census records is to start narrow and then broaden your search as you move through your results if you don't find what you're looking for. So I'm just using a generic name here, no one specific. So I'm just going to search last name Johnson, first name Mary, and we're going to say they lived in New York. And so you want to have a location, and that's really important because census records are organized by location, you guys. So you need to have some idea of where your ancestor may have lived. You don't need to know exact because that's why you're searching. You're trying to find out. But if you have no idea, you're probably not going to find that person. You need to at least know the state, right? Because looking for, like, for example, Mary Johnson in all of the U.S., you're never going to find who you're looking for. So you need to have a location or some idea of a location, and obviously a name. Last name, first name. If you have a middle name, I probably wouldn't enter a middle name at this point, but it's great to use a middle name to try and decipher your results later on. So anyway, at least start with those bare bones. If you scroll down, you see there are many other options. I don't start with these other options because it's just going to restrict your search results. And I like to start just a little bit more broad than that. I like to try to find a balance between being specific and being too restrictive. So I probably would just start with location and name, maybe birth year if I had that, before getting into entering siblings and spouses, because you don't know necessarily how things were spelled, if those people were actually in the household at that year. That's why you're researching, so that you can find that out. So be careful about entering too much information here when you first start. Sometimes I will enter a race, nationality, and that is probably about it when I'm first starting. So I'll go ahead and hit search. And again, I'm not looking for anyone in particular. I just want to kind of show you how the system works. And then you end up with a list of results. And it kind of gives you a quick snapshot of critical information about that person, like birth year, birthplace, where they were living, and a synopsis of their relatives that are in the household with them. And so this allows you to kind of weed people out, right? Like if you know you're searching in 1950 and you're looking for someone who was about 30 years old, then this person born in 1882 is not the Mary Johnson that you're looking for. And this person born in 1945 is not the Mary Johnson that you're looking for, right? So having some background information about your ancestor, this is where it helps to help weed out people. Knowing middle names, because notice that some people have a middle initial or a middle name. And so if you knew that, that could help you weed out which Mary Johnson you're looking for. And if you can't figure it out by this information, then you may need to go back and adjust your search. But let's say Mary G. Johnson is who you're looking for. If you hover over the view record, you get some more information. This is basically a synopsis of what is available on the actual census record. And then that will pop up as like a pop-up window. If you click on view record, it'll take you to a page that has that information listed. This is a very good page to print. I love printing this page if I determine this is my ancestor, because it prints nice and neat and clean. But this is basically a transcription of the actual record, which you can access by clicking the thumbnail up in the left. And that will open the actual census record. And this is the census record as it was taken by the census taker in 1950. This is their handwriting. This is how they spelled things. This is basically what was told to them when they were standing in front of the person giving the information. So these are great records to look at the original version, because you have to keep in mind a lot of human hands have touched this since 1950. You had the census taker talking to someone who gave them information verbally and they wrote it down, and then that sat in somebody's storage room for 70 years. And then somebody came along and said, let's transcribe these records so that we can put them in a database and eventually people can start looking at it. And that went through a 10-15 year process, and individuals are the ones who did that, not computers, because you didn't have computers at the time. And so someone had to read this person's cursive and transcribe that into the database. So there's room for error is what I'm saying. So it always helps to look at the official or the original transcript and see how things were actually recorded. So on some years, like for example in 1950, there's a section at the bottom. This isn't very common, but there's a section at the bottom where you can get more information about specific people listed above. And you can reference the numbers, like Mary G, her number is 20. So down here, she was asked some supplemental questions, and she gave answers to those, but number 21 wasn't asked those questions, right? So not everybody's going to get the supplemental questions. And that's not common on every census, but it is available in the 1950 census. So the only other thing I want to point out about when you look at census records, you guys, they're pretty much set up the same. You have the top section, which is going to have your census details, the year, the date the census started, who the census taker is, the location of where the census was taken. Then you get into your column headers so that you can understand what this data means. And they're pretty similar. You're going to have household and location information on your left, going into your name and biographics of the person who's giving that information. Then you usually get into like occupational questions or net worth type questions, stuff like how much do you rent your house, do you own it, things like that. For some years, you have information about your birthplace and your parents' birthplace. Not every year has that, but some do. Some do. And then you get into like your employment information. What type of work do you do? Where do you work? That is pretty much the same. It may look a little bit different depending on the census year, but that structure stays the same. Okay. So, yeah, that's what that looks like. So, let's quickly take a look at some of the other available census collections that are not in the US. We're not going to go into them, but just to kind of show you what's there. If you were to click on the UK census collection, the search page looks the same, but of course you would be searching the UK if you have global access account. And then it shows all of the available data collections that are available to be searched. Canadian census collection looks the same, and you have you can search collections that are available. And then if you click on the 1700s, 1800s, 1900s, and I'm going to click on the 1800s, or no, the 1900s, the difference is what this shows you is the collections that are available within that year range. And so if you wanted to drill down to, say, the US, you would see all of the census collections across the US that would be available within that range, right? So this is a much broader search. This is why I generally don't go here unless I absolutely need to. But yeah, that's how you search the census records on Ancestry.com. That was just a quick tutorial. I'll do more of these on this channel, digging a little bit deeper. I will just close out by giving you some search tips. Be open-minded as you're searching. You're going to have stories because you need to sit down and write down what you know about your ancestors, but don't have tunnel vision. Please understand that information you may encounter may be different than the story that was told to you. That doesn't mean it's wrong. It just may be different than what you heard. So go into your search being open-minded, don't have tunnel vision, and don't give up. If you don't find what you're looking for the first time, search again. Change your search parameters. Add more search features, take some away. Don't give up. This is a journey, and be willing to engage in that journey. And so those are probably my top tips for you. Thanks for watching this video. I'll have more videos and tutorials posted on this channel. So please subscribe if you have not so that you can catch all of those. Thanks.